The night was glittering with a kind of magic only money could buy. The grand ballroom of the city's most luxurious hotel was alive with excitement, its walls adorned with gold trims and crystal chandeliers that sparkled like thousands of tiny stars. Every surface seemed polished to perfection, reflecting the warm glow of the lights, and the air smelled faintly of expensive perfume and freshly cut flowers. Guests dressed in designer gowns and tailored suits mingled effortlessly, their laughter and conversations filling the room in a steady hum. Waiters in crisp white uniforms moved gracefully between the crowds, carrying trays of champagne and delicate hors d'oeuvres, adding a touch of elegance to the already opulent atmosphere. This was no ordinary event. It was the kind of gala that only the ultra-rich and famous could attend, a gathering where power, wealth, and influence mingled just as freely as the champagne. The room buzzed with whispers of secret deals and new partnerships, of fortunes being made and broken with the flick of a pen or the shake of a hand. Cameras flashed intermittently, capturing moments that would later appear in high-end magazines and social media feeds, cementing the evening in the public imagination long after it ended. The guests were aware of this, and it added an electric tension to the air, a mix of pride, curiosity, and a little bit of nervousness, because here, every move was being watched. Music played softly in the background, a mix of live strings and a light jazz ensemble that set a sophisticated tone without overpowering the conversations. People leaned in close to hear each other over the quiet murmur, exchanging polite greetings, compliments, and sometimes veiled insults hidden behind smiles. The atmosphere was competitive yet charming, like a carefully choreographed dance where everyone knew their steps but hoped to outshine the others. Every guest seemed to carry an invisible badge of status, and subtle cues, a glint of jewelry, the cut of a suit, the brand of a handbag, told stories of wealth and taste. In the center of it all, the long tables were arranged with meticulous care, draped in rich fabrics and decorated with towering floral arrangements. Golden plates, crystal glasses, and polished silverware shimmered under the chandelier lights. Even the smallest details, the napkin folds, the placement of tiny candles, were designed to impress, creating an environment that celebrated extravagance and exclusivity. Nothing was left to chance, every aspect of the gala was curated to project power, elegance, and sophistication. Guests arrived in luxury cars, stepping out onto red carpets as photographers captured their entrances. Some arrived in sleek black limousines, while others made a grand statement in vintage sports cars, their engines roaring briefly before doors opened to reveal the elegantly dressed occupants. The crowd outside mirrored the excitement inside, with onlookers craning their necks for a glimpse of celebrities and billionaires, whispering names they had only read in magazines or seen on television. The aura of fame and fortune was tangible, it seemed to wrap around the gala like an invisible curtain, separating the privileged few inside from the world beyond. Inside, the conversations flowed as easily as the champagne. Investors discussed potential deals, entrepreneurs pitched ideas, and celebrities shared stories from red carpets around the globe. There was a constant undercurrent of ambition, as everyone there was aware that one casual comment or well-timed handshake could open doors to unimaginable opportunities. Yet beneath the glitter and elegance, there was also a quiet tension. The stakes were high, and everyone knew that in this world, a single misstep could become a headline, or worse, a scandal. People smiled politely, laughed at jokes, and nodded in agreement, but eyes constantly scanned the room, evaluating who held influence, who could be an ally, and who might be a rival. As the night progressed, the energy in the room seemed to intensify. The gala wasn't just a social event, it was a stage where every attendee played a part in the drama of wealth and power. Every gesture, every glance, and every whispered word had meaning. The setting was perfect for unexpected moments, moments that could change reputations, fortunes, and relationships in an instant. The grandeur of the room, the elegance of the guests, and the sheer spectacle of the event combined to create a sense of anticipation, as if the world itself were holding its breath, waiting for something extraordinary to happen. In this sparkling environment, nothing seemed impossible. The gala was a place where the wealthy and powerful could indulge in their desires, make deals worth billions, and display influence with confidence. And as the evening continued, the sense of expectation grew stronger, a quiet reminder that in such a world, even a single moment could become unforgettable, setting the stage for events that would leave the entire social scene talking for weeks to come. Among the glittering crowd, one figure stood out effortlessly. She was the heiress, a woman whose name alone carried weight in boardrooms, fashion circles, and social media feeds alike. Even before she entered the room, there was a subtle shift in the atmosphere, a ripple of attention, a quick glance here, a hushed whisper there. People noticed the way she moved, confident yet graceful, as though the world itself had been built to accommodate her every step. She was dressed in a gown that shimmered like liquid gold, hugging her figure and catching the light with every turn. It wasn't just a dress, it was a statement, a symbol of power, wealth, and unmistakable presence. The heiress had a reputation that preceded her. Known for her extravagant lifestyle, she was equally famous for her bold personality. Stories of her daring adventures and uncompromising decisions were often shared in hushed tones at parties like this one. Some admired her courage and charisma, while others envied her influence or feared her unpredictable nature. Yet tonight, she wasn't just another guest, she was a force that seemed to command the room without uttering a word. As she made her way across the ballroom, heads turned, and conversations faltered for a brief moment. Cameras instinctively focused on her, capturing each elegant gesture and effortless smile. She nodded politely to a few acquaintances, her eyes scanning the crowd with a mixture of curiosity and calculation. Every step was measured, every movement deliberate. She knew exactly how she wanted to be seen, confident, glamorous, and untouchable. Yet beneath the poise, there was a spark of unpredictability, an aura that suggested anything could happen when she was involved. Her presence wasn't just about appearance. The heiress had cultivated influence over decades, mastering the delicate balance between charm and power. Business magnates, celebrities, and politicians all knew her name and the subtle authority that came with it. A casual conversation with her could open doors, shift alliances, or spark rumors that would circulate for weeks. She understood the currency of attention and used it as skillfully as others used money. Tonight, the gala was her stage, and she moved across it like a performer who knew the audience would hang on every move. Despite her reputation, the heiress was approachable when she wanted to be. She smiled at acquaintances, shared polite laughs, and offered compliments that felt genuine, even when some guests suspected they were strategic. But she could also be intimidating. Her sharp gaze could silence a room, and her decisions were often swift and final. People who underestimated her quickly learned that behind the glamorous exterior was a mind that calculated risks, influence, and opportunities with precision. It was this combination of allure and authority that made her unforgettable, and tonight, it set the stage for a moment that no one present would ever forget. As she paused briefly near the center of the ballroom, she surveyed the gala with a practiced eye. She noticed subtle alliances forming in quiet corners, whispered negotiations, and the occasional envy hidden behind polite smiles. The heiress wasn't just observing, she was analyzing, cataloging information, and deciding who mattered in the grand scheme of the evening. Every interaction, every glance, could become useful later, either in business or in social maneuvering. She had mastered the art of reading a room, understanding the unspoken hierarchies and unearthing opportunities others failed to see. Yet, for all her control, there was a streak of unpredictability that made her fascinating. While many of the other guests moved cautiously, carefully calculating every action, she had a tendency to act spontaneously when the moment demanded it. That unpredictability made her simultaneously admired and feared. People never quite knew what she might do next, and tonight, with the cameras flashing and the crowd buzzing, the sense of anticipation around her seemed almost tangible. Every eye in the room was subtly drawn to her, as though sensing that her next move could change everything. By the time she reached the bar to accept a glass of champagne, it was clear to everyone watching that the heiress was more than just a guest. She was the centerpiece, the pulse of the evening, and a reminder that power and personality often walk hand in hand. While the gala continued around her, she was already shaping the story of the night in ways that no one yet realized. With elegance, authority, and a hint of mischief in her eyes, she was ready to make her mark, and the events about to unfold would prove just how much influence one person could wield in the glittering, high-stakes world of wealth and society. The evening had been unfolding like a perfectly scripted play, every guest performing their part with elegance and precision, yet in the midst of the sparkle and sophistication, a single moment was about to shatter the polished calm. The heiress, with all her charm and confidence, had been observing the room carefully, noting every glance, every whispered conversation, and every subtle gesture. And then it happened, a moment so shocking that it would become the talk of the gala, the city, and soon, the world. Across the ballroom, a woman stood quietly, dressed in a sleek black gown that complemented her presence rather than competing with it. She mingled with a few high-profile guests, smiling politely and engaging in soft conversation, unaware of the growing tension a few steps away. The heiress, ever observant and always in control of her surroundings, had apparently taken offense at something, a passing comment, a look, or perhaps a perceived slight, but whatever it was, it triggered an impulsive response. Before anyone could react, the heiress picked up a nearby dessert from the elegantly arranged buffet table. It was a delicate cake, frosted with creamy swirls and adorned with gold leaf, a miniature work of art meant to impress, not destroy. In one swift, almost theatrical motion, she flung the cake across the room, and it collided with the woman in the black gown. The sound was sharp and unmistakable, a splat that cut through the low hum of conversation and music. Gasps erupted instantly, some guests covering their mouths in shock, others instinctively reaching for their phones to capture the moment, knowing this was not something that happened every day, even in a room full of billionaires and celebrities. The woman stood frozen for a heartbeat, the frosting dripping down her elegant attire, eyes wide with disbelief. For a moment, time seemed to suspend, and the gala's refined atmosphere was replaced with a chaotic blend of murmurs, whispers, and shocked exclamations. Some guests gasped audibly, others whispered to each other, trying to understand what had just occurred. Cameras clicked furiously as flashes lit the room, capturing the scene from multiple angles. Social media notifications began to explode in real time, as attendees shared the shocking incident with the world outside, oblivious to anything but the drama unfolding before them. The heiress, however, did not appear regretful or embarrassed. On the contrary, her expression was a mixture of triumph and defiance, as if she had not only made her point but had also reminded everyone present of her unpredictable authority. Her eyes met the shocked gaze of the woman she had targeted, and for a fleeting moment, there was an unspoken exchange, a silent clash of wills, power, and pride. The air between them seemed to thrum with tension, and it was clear to everyone in the room that this was more than a random act of impulsivity, it was a deliberate statement, a declaration that she could bend the rules of decorum and still remain untouchable. Guests moved cautiously around the scene, unsure whether to intervene or merely observe. Some offered napkins and assistance, while others whispered speculations about the reasons behind the shocking act. The staff scrambled to contain the mess, trying to restore order while avoiding drawing further attention to the spectacle. The music, once smooth and elegant, now seemed almost irrelevant, drowned out by the buzz of shocked conversations and the growing sense that this night had taken a turn into chaos. As the cameras continued to flash, and social media lit up with live updates, the heiress seemed entirely in her element. She had transformed a simple gala into a moment of drama that no one would forget. The room, once a controlled stage of elegance and sophistication, now hummed with tension, gossip, and speculation. The incident was not just a disruption, it was a statement about power, personality, and the unpredictable nature of those who lived at the top of society. In the midst of the chaos, the woman in the black gown maintained her composure, wiping away frosting while trying to navigate the embarrassment with grace. Yet even as she collected herself, the impact of the act rippled far beyond her personal space. Guests whispered about what this would mean for relationships, for reputations, and for the delicate web of alliances carefully cultivated in such exclusive circles. What had started as a glamorous evening had suddenly turned into a spectacle that would dominate headlines, online discussions, and gossip for weeks to come. And while the world outside would soon learn of the shocking cake incident, no one in the room could have anticipated that the evening had only just begun to escalate, as the heiress prepared to take another action that would leave everyone truly stunned, setting the stage for an even more dramatic twist that no one would see coming. The moment the cake hit its unintended target, the gala's polished calm shattered like glass, sending ripples of shock through every corner of the grand ballroom. Conversations that had been flowing in soft, controlled murmurs suddenly stopped mid-sentence, and all eyes instinctively turned toward the heiress and the woman in the black gown. Gasps filled the air, sharp and urgent, like a collective intake of breath, and some guests instinctively covered their mouths, unable to believe what they had just witnessed. It was as if the elegance of the evening had fractured in an instant, replaced by a chaotic energy that buzzed through the room. The woman, momentarily frozen in shock, quickly regained her composure. She wiped the frosting from her dress with surprising calm, her hands steady despite the humiliation. Her face, a mix of surprise and disbelief, reflected the tension of the moment, yet her poise reminded everyone present that she was not a woman to be easily intimidated. Some attendees whispered to each other in disbelief, murmuring questions. Why did she do that? Was it personal? Did anyone see what happened just before? But answers were scarce, and speculation began to spread like wildfire. The heiress, meanwhile, maintained an almost theatrical air of control. Her expression was unreadable, a careful balance of amusement and confidence that suggested she had expected this reaction all along. She scanned the room with a piercing gaze, as if daring anyone to challenge her, and the subtle authority she exuded made even the most powerful guests hesitate. In her world, attention was power, and tonight, she had captured it in full. Her impulsive act had shifted the entire focus of the gala onto her, leaving no doubt who commanded the room. The staff reacted quickly, rushing to the scene with towels, napkins, and polite apologies. Waiters moved with precision, trying to restore a sense of order, while discreetly cleaning the mess before it could dominate the gala's image. But their efficiency couldn't erase the intensity of the moment. Every guest, from the youngest socialite to the most seasoned billionaire, felt the ripple effect. Phones appeared in hands almost instantly, cameras flashing as people captured images and videos. Within minutes, social media feeds began filling with snapshots and short clips, the incident destined to go viral before the night was even halfway over. Whispers spread like wildfire through the crowd. Some guests questioned the motive, speculating whether it was a personal attack, a business rivalry, or simply an impulsive display of arrogance. Others debated the implications for social etiquette, marveling at how such an unthinkable act could occur in a room meant to epitomize sophistication. People leaned into each other, quietly sharing theories, their words laced with shock and a hint of fear. After all, the heiress had demonstrated something clear: in her world, social norms were flexible, and power could bend the rules effortlessly. Amid the murmurs, reactions varied widely. Some guests were horrified, their faces contorted in disbelief, unable to hide their disdain. Others watched with a grudging fascination, secretly impressed by the audacity and confidence displayed. A few tried to intervene immediately, approaching the heiress cautiously, attempting polite words of caution, but their gestures were met with a subtle deflection, a look, a smile, a shake of the head, reminding them that she answered to no one but herself. Even those accustomed to drama and scandal in elite social circles found themselves unprepared for the sheer boldness of the act. Meanwhile, the woman who had been targeted navigated the attention with remarkable grace. She refused to let the moment define her entirely, continuing to interact with other guests while carefully assessing her next move. Her calm contrasted sharply with the chaos around her, earning quiet admiration from some observers who recognized the strength required to maintain composure under such public humiliation. In a room dominated by wealth and ego, she reminded everyone that dignity could still hold its ground, even in moments of extreme vulnerability. The energy in the ballroom remained electric long after the initial incident. Guests whispered, speculated, and replayed the scene in their minds. Social media notifications continued to explode, and within minutes, the video clips and images began circulating beyond the event, capturing the attention of the wider public. This wasn't merely a gala mishap, It was a story that would define the evening and perhaps linger far longer. The immediate reactions of shock, fear, fascination, and admiration all intertwined, creating a charged atmosphere that no one could ignore. By the time the initial chaos had settled, it was clear to everyone present that the gala had changed irreversibly. The incident had thrown the room off balance, turning a carefully curated display of sophistication into a spectacle of drama, tension, and intrigue. And while the heiress had made her point, no one yet realized that this was only the beginning of a series of events that would leave the world stunned, because the next move, unexpected, bold, and astonishing, was already underway, waiting just moments away. Within minutes of the shocking incident, the gala transformed from a glittering display of wealth and sophistication into a digital spectacle that no one could ignore. Smartphones had emerged from elegant clutches and designer pockets as guests, still in awe, began capturing videos and photos of the heiress and the woman in the black gown. The flashes of cameras flickered like lightning across the room, documenting every angle, every expression, and every reaction. What was once a private moment inside the lavish ballroom was now on the verge of becoming a global story, shared in real time across social media platforms. The heiress, seemingly unfazed by the chaos she had caused, appeared almost to enjoy the attention. Her every move was now magnified, analyzed, and shared by dozens of pairs of eyes simultaneously. In her world, visibility was a form of power, and the incident had ensured that she would dominate not just the gala, but also the digital conversations surrounding it. Social media accounts began exploding with posts, snippets of the cake flying through the air, the shocked reaction of the woman in black, and the stunned faces of the guests. Hashtags began forming almost instantly, connecting the event to trending topics, gossip pages, and news outlets. By the time the gala's music had shifted back to a gentle hum, the incident was already making its rounds online. Within a few minutes, clips were shared to Instagram stories, TikTok reels, and Twitter feeds, some adding commentary, others speculating on the motive behind the audacious act. Comments poured in from viewers far beyond the room, turning the event into a viral phenomenon. People debated endlessly, was it a personal attack? A business rivalry? Or just a display of the heiress's unpredictable personality? Opinions ranged from outrage to fascination, while memes and jokes started to circulate, cementing the gala's moment in digital culture almost instantly. News outlets quickly picked up the story as well. Journalists, bloggers, and online media personalities began reporting on the gala, offering their own analysis of what had occurred. Headlines splashed across screens read variations of the shocking act, emphasizing both the drama and the elite status of the participants. The heiress's name became synonymous with audacity overnight. Analysts speculated about the possible consequences, both socially and professionally, while commentators debated the racial, social, and cultural dimensions of the incident. What had started as a private evening for the ultra-rich had now taken on the dimensions of a global conversation. Meanwhile, the reactions inside the room only amplified the viral momentum. Guests whispered to each other, replaying the incident in slow motion in their minds and on their phones. Some expressed shock, some awe, and others amusement. Even the most composed socialites found themselves talking in hushed tones, unable to ignore the magnitude of what had just occurred. The room, once filled with carefully controlled elegance, now buzzed with energy, tension, and speculation. Every glance between attendees was loaded with curiosity and anticipation, as if everyone knew that they were witnessing something historically dramatic in real time. Outside the ballroom, the wider world began to catch up. Influencers, journalists, and social media users shared their own takes on the event, with hashtags multiplying and trending almost instantly. The combination of wealth, social status, and sheer audacity created a perfect storm for virality. Some posts focused on the drama itself, others on the personalities involved, and yet more explored the broader implications for high society behavior and power dynamics. Across platforms, people were captivated, debating what this single act meant for reputation, influence, and control. Even the woman in black, who had been the unexpected target, became part of the story. Her grace under pressure was praised online, with many commenting on her composure despite the humiliation. People admired her ability to remain dignified while the heiress dominated the spotlight. For a moment, the gala's drama wasn't just about the act itself, it was also about how both women responded, their contrasting personalities fueling discussions about resilience, social power, and personal strength. By the end of the evening, it was clear that the gala had been permanently transformed. The viral moment had taken on a life of its own, spreading far beyond the walls of the ballroom. No one present could have imagined just how far-reaching the incident would become, nor how it would set the stage for a series of events that would surprise even the most seasoned observers. In the world of social media and instant news, a single action, captured in seconds, could dominate global conversations, and tonight, the heiress had ensured that all eyes, both in the room and across the world, were firmly fixed on her. Just when the room was still buzzing from the chaos of the cake incident, an even more unexpected twist sent waves of shock through everyone present. The heiress, who had just stolen the spotlight with her audacious act, now made a move that would astonish not just the guests, but the world beyond the gala. Within minutes of the viral moment, she reportedly cancelled a business agreement worth a staggering $4 billion, leaving everyone in stunned silence. In an instant, the gala had shifted from a social spectacle to a high-stakes battlefield of power, influence, and wealth, revealing that this heiress was not just unpredictable in her social behavior, but also in the world of business. The news spread quickly among the attendees. Whispers filled the room as business executives, investors, and entrepreneurs tried to process what had just happened. Did she really just do that? One guest asked, eyes wide with disbelief. Another shook his head, muttering, $4 billion, gone, just like that. In a place where fortunes were built, negotiated, and carefully preserved, such a move was almost unimaginable. Yet for the heiress, it seemed to be a calculated decision wrapped in the drama of the evening. The combination of audacity and strategy was both terrifying and awe-inspiring to those who witnessed it. The details of the deal were murky to many, but it was known to be a massive agreement involving some of the world's most influential companies. Analysts later speculated that the cancellation could have far-reaching implications, affecting stock prices, corporate partnerships, and global investments. Yet within the ballroom, the focus wasn't just on the numbers, it was on the audacity of the heiress herself. Here was a woman who could dominate social events and then, without hesitation, make a move that could potentially alter the global business landscape, all in the span of a few minutes. The reactions were instantaneous. Some guests were horrified, whispering about the reckless nature of such a decision. Could she afford to be this impulsive? Was this a personal vendetta disguised as business? Others, however, were impressed by the sheer power and confidence it took to pull off such a bold move. The heiress had turned the entire room into her chessboard, using the gala as both a social and strategic stage. Those who understood her influence realized that she had just demonstrated what true power looked like, control over both perception and profit, charisma and capital. Even the woman in the black gown, who had endured the cake incident, became entwined in the narrative. Some speculated that the cancelled deal might have connections to her presence, whether through prior negotiations, alliances, or rivalries. The room was filled with speculation, and every attendee tried to connect the dots. Conversations that had just been about the social scandal now shifted to business strategy, alliances, and the implications of a single decisive action. In one evening, the heiress had managed to dominate both social and corporate narratives simultaneously, a feat few could imagine. Meanwhile, the social media storm only intensified. Clips of the cake incident were now accompanied by breaking news headlines about the $4 billion cancellation. Analysts, commentators, and influencers weighed in, dissecting the move from every possible angle. Some labeled it reckless, others brilliant, and still others called it audaciously strategic. In a world where corporate decisions are usually shrouded in secrecy, the heiress had turned a private negotiation into a public spectacle, blending personal drama with business acumen in a way that no one could ignore. The gala's atmosphere shifted palpably. Guests who had been tense about the cake incident now found themselves analyzing boardroom strategy, investor confidence, and the possible repercussions of losing billions in an instant. The heiress's influence was undeniable, and the room, which had been buzzing with social chatter, now hummed with awe, fear, and intrigue. Her ability to orchestrate attention and command outcomes, both socially and financially, created an aura that was almost electric, a reminder that she was not just a socialite but a powerful force in both worlds. By the end of the evening, it was clear that this gala would be remembered not just for the cake incident, but for the bold financial move that followed. The heiress had turned a single night into a narrative of power, unpredictability, and dominance. Guests left talking about her audacity, analysts wrote articles, and social media continued to erupt with speculation. She had proven that influence wasn't just about wealth, glamour, or public attention, it was about the ability to act decisively, without fear of consequences, and leave the world stunned in the process. In one unforgettable night, she had changed the story entirely, demonstrating that sometimes, the most unexpected moves carry the greatest power. By the time the gala ended, the world outside had already caught up to what had happened inside. The combination of the cake incident and the shocking cancellation of a $4 billion deal created a story too compelling to ignore. Within hours, news outlets, social media platforms, and gossip blogs were flooded with images, videos, and commentary, each trying to piece together the events of the night. What began as an exclusive, private gathering of the ultra-wealthy had transformed into a global spectacle, and the heiress at its center had become a headline in her own right. Mainstream media outlets wasted no time. Headlines screamed in bold letters about the heiress who had thrown cake on a woman at a gala, and minutes later, cancelled one of the largest business deals in recent history. News anchors debated her motives, panels of experts speculated on the possible consequences for both her social standing and her corporate influence, and commentators dissected the event for hours on television. The story wasn't just about scandal, it was about power, wealth, and the unpredictable nature of those who wield it. Every outlet seemed determined to capture the attention of viewers, readers, and social media users alike, using a combination of drama and analysis to keep the story trending. On social media, the story spread even faster. Hashtags emerged almost immediately, linking the incident to conversations about wealth, audacity, and celebrity behavior. Clips of the cake incident went viral, accompanied by captions speculating about the heiress's motivations. Some posts criticized her behavior, calling it rude, reckless, and uncalled for, while others praised her boldness, describing her as fearless and unapologetically powerful. Memes, GIFs, and commentary threads multiplied, and soon, the story was being discussed not just by those interested in celebrity news, but by millions of ordinary people curious about the scandal. Public reactions were as polarized as they were intense. Some were outraged, condemning the heiress for what they saw as an unprovoked attack. Debates about social norms, etiquette, and racial dynamics became intertwined with discussions of wealth and privilege. Critics argued that her actions reflected the arrogance of the super-rich, a symbol of power unchecked by accountability. On the other side, supporters marveled at her audacity and decision-making, noting how she combined charm, influence, and business acumen to dominate both social and corporate spaces in one evening. The incident became a topic of conversation in boardrooms, living rooms, and online forums, proving that a single act could ripple far beyond the walls of a gala. Analysts and business commentators also weighed in on the $4 billion deal. Financial experts dissected the possible motivations behind such a drastic cancellation, speculating whether it was a strategic move, a personal vendetta, or a demonstration of her independence in high-stakes negotiations. Stock markets, business blogs, and industry insiders examined the ripple effects of the decision, debating how it could affect investor confidence, corporate partnerships, and future deals. The combination of social scandal and financial maneuvering made the heiress an even more compelling figure, someone whose every action seemed capable of reshaping both reputation and market dynamics. Meanwhile, the heiress herself became a symbol in the public imagination. She was portrayed as both fearless and controversial, admired and critiqued in equal measure. Her audacity sparked discussions about power and influence, raising questions about how wealth allows certain individuals to act without restraint, and whether charisma and authority can overshadow recklessness. People speculated endlessly about her personality, her motivations, and the potential fallout from her actions, keeping the conversation alive long after the gala had ended. The woman in the black gown, too, became part of the narrative. Commentators praised her composure, turning her into an unlikely hero in the story. Her dignity and calm under pressure provided a counterpoint to the heiress's flamboyance, and audiences around the world admired her strength. The contrast between the two women fueled discussions about social dynamics, resilience, and the nature of influence in high-profile environments. By the end of the day, it was clear that the gala had become a defining moment. Social media, traditional media, and public discourse converged to make it one of the most talked-about events of the year. The Heiress had succeeded in capturing global attention, proving that a single night could change perceptions, dominate conversations, and spark debates far beyond the walls of a ballroom. The story was no longer just about a cake or a canceled deal, it was about power, personality, and the extraordinary ways in which a single individual could command both the social and corporate worlds in a single, unforgettable evening. As the lights of the gala dimmed and the last guests departed, the impact of that unforgettable night continued to resonate far beyond the ballroom. What began as a night of glamour, glitter, and whispered conversations had transformed into a story that the world would not soon forget. The Heiress, with her audacious act of throwing a cake and the equally shocking cancellation of a $4 billion deal, had etched her name into the annals of social and corporate history. It was a night where personal drama collided with business power, creating a spectacle that blurred the lines between scandal and strategy, and left everyone who witnessed it, either in person or through the media, in awe. The gala itself became a case study in unpredictability. Analysts, journalists, and commentators dissected every detail, from the moment the cake left the heiress's hand to the ripple effects of the financial decision. For years to come, people would reference the night as an example of how influence, audacity, and confidence could reshape both perception and reality in an instant. Social media would continue to highlight clips, memes, and discussions, ensuring that even those who had not attended the event felt connected to its drama. The Heiress had, in effect, created a cultural moment, one that transcended the boundaries of wealth, celebrity, and business. For the Heiress herself, the night reinforced her reputation as a figure of unstoppable influence. While some criticized her actions as reckless, others admired her ability to command attention and navigate complex social and business networks simultaneously. In her world, power was measured not just by money or status, but by the ability to make bold decisions, and she had demonstrated that in spectacular fashion. The incident proved that influence was as much about presence, timing, and audacity as it was about connections or strategy. By combining shock value with strategic thinking, she had left an indelible mark that few could rival. The woman in the black gown, who had borne the brunt of the heiress's dramatic gesture, also emerged as a symbol of dignity and resilience. While initially thrust into an embarrassing and highly publicized moment, she navigated it with poise, refusing to allow humiliation to define her. Observers worldwide lauded her composure, seeing her as an example of grace under pressure. Her reaction provided a powerful counterbalance to the heiress's flamboyance, showing that strength and influence could take many forms, not just through wealth and audacity, but also through restraint, professionalism, and dignity. In the weeks that followed, the gala continued to dominate conversations in both elite circles and popular media. The story sparked discussions about social etiquette, power dynamics, and the responsibilities that come with immense wealth. People debated endlessly whether the heiress's actions were justified, impulsive, or a strategic display of dominance. Business experts analyzed the cancelled $4 billion deal, speculating on its long-term implications for global partnerships and investments. Social media users, meanwhile, dissected every video clip and photograph, generating memes, commentary, and debates that ensured the event remained relevant far beyond the initial shock. The lasting legacy of the night was not simply about scandal or financial drama, it was about the lessons it imparted. The gala highlighted how influence could manifest in both personal and professional arenas, and how a single individual could command attention on multiple levels simultaneously. It demonstrated that boldness could disrupt expectations, change narratives, and create unforgettable moments. For many, it was a reminder that actions, no matter how seemingly impulsive, carry weight, and that visibility and perception often matter as much as strategy and planning in the world of the ultra-powerful. Ultimately, the night became a defining story for the heiress, the woman in black, and the elite society they inhabited. It served as a reminder that even in worlds dominated by wealth and control, human behavior, impulsive, calculated, or courageous, remains at the center of every narrative. The gala, once intended as a celebration of elegance and luxury, had become a stage for a dramatic tale of audacity, resilience, and influence, leaving behind a legacy that would be remembered, discussed, and analyzed for years to come. In the end, what made the evening unforgettable wasn't just the cake or the canceled deal, it was the way one night could encapsulate the unpredictable intersections of wealth, power, personality, and consequence. It was a story that would inspire, shock, and captivate anyone who heard it, a story that proved, above all, that true influence often comes not just from what you own, but from the boldness of your actions, the clarity of your decisions, and the courage to command the world around you.